All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down that absolutely thrilling 1-1 draw between Canada and Bosnia and Herzegovina at the 2026 World Cup. This match was a literal masterclass in how fast the tide can turn on international football's biggest stage. We're going to map out exactly how and why that momentum shifted so wildly. To really set the stage here, the broadcast opened with this deeply cinematic line, "So the adventure begins for another two nations." I mean, doesn't that just perfectly capture the World Cup magic? It's a clean slate, massive expectations, and a totally unpredictable journey ahead for both of these squads as they step out under those bright lights. Section 1, the group stage begins. Right from the opening whistle, we're looking at a massive contrast in expectations. On one hand, you've got Canada, right? A well-stocked, highly fancied squad under Jesse Marsch, riding that huge wave of expectation that comes with playing on your own patch. But on the other side, Bosnia and Herzegovina, they are hungry challengers, totally eager to disrupt the narrative and make their presence felt on the global stage. And wow, that disruption happened fast. Canada actually kicked off quite brightly, looking perfectly comfortable. But as we all know in tournament football, momentum is incredibly fragile. A high launch comes in, it isn't dealt with immediately by the Canadian defense, and suddenly, poof, that bright start just evaporates into a wave of panic. Section 2, Bosnia seizes the lead. Bosnia capitalized instantly. Just like the broadcast noted, oh, it's a lovely flick on, and it's a Bosnia goal. What started out as a pretty standard set piece with no real conviction suddenly turned deadly with that one flick. It completely caught the favored Canadian side flat-footed and flipped the entire tactical script right on its head. Now you have to understand, this wasn't just a goal. It was a massive statement. Suddenly, Bosnia and Herzegovina are up and running at the World Cup finals. And hey, they could really be in business here. Scoring against the host nation right out of the gate, that is exactly how you prove you belong on the world stage. Section 3, pressure and near misses. The momentum swings in this match were just relentless. If we look at the timeline, we go from Canada's bright start in the opening minutes straight into a violent shift with Bosnia's flick-on goal. But the pendulum doesn't swing back to the hosts right away. No, Bosnia keeps their foot on the gas through those middle minutes. And it really wasn't until the final moments that Canada could mount a desperate, team-wide push for the equalizer. Let's zoom in on those terrifying middle minutes for the home crowd. Bosnia was straight away threatening again. The broadcast really captured the panic perfectly. Bounce off the bar, they're in for a second here, but for some brave goalkeeping. Seriously, Bosnia almost doubled their lead immediately when they hit the crossbar. It demanded some incredibly brave goalkeeping from Canada just to keep the game alive and stop the whole thing from completely unraveling. Which brings us to Section 4, Canada bottles back. So Canada's response was this immense team-wide siege to reclaim the game. We're talking Johnston relentlessly applying pressure up high, while David is in there anchoring the middle of the 6-yard box with great positioning. Then you've got Kyle desperately trying to oblige an incredibly anxious home crowd, and Larea smartly darting into the middle as a crucial passing option. But getting that breakthrough, yeah, it wasn't simple at all. Canada manufactured these really beautifully worked openings. Yet every single time they looked primed to score, they were met with just brilliant defending. The Bosnian side was totally unyielding. I mean, they were quite literally throwing themselves in the way of the ball. It's honestly a perfect illustration of an unstoppable offensive push, running face first into a gritty, immovable defense. Section 5, an enthralling draw. 1-1. The match concluded exactly as tightly contested as it played out on the pitch, deadlocked at 1 apiece. And, it's a scoreline that represents two entirely different journeys over the course of the 90 minutes. For Canada, it was a hard-fought battle to stabilize and strike back on home soil. But for Bosnia, a massive early statement, followed up by an absolute defensive masterclass. At the final whistle, it was, as the broadcast's slightly garbled captions hilariously recorded it, the end of an enthralling contest. It ends Canada 1, Bosnia and Herzegovina, come on. Okay, despite the funny auto text there, the core sentiment was absolutely spot on. From bright starts to sudden shocks, brave goalkeeping, and those frantic last-ditch blocks, this was a pure battle of momentum from the first minute to the very last. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. With an enthralling 1-1 draw in the books, who is going to seize the momentum in their next World Cup clash? Will Canada use this hard-fought point as a massive wake-up call to go out and dominate their group? Or will Bosnia and Herzegovina use this huge result to fuel a deep, disruptive run on the global stage? If there's one thing you